ZombieGrub just wrapped up the #1 premiere WCS cast. How are you feeling, actually? This is like an Academy Award acceptance thing. How do you feel?
They never ask that at Academy Awards because it's a dumb question to ask. No, yeah, everyone's actually asked me that question the entire time from start to finish. Like, how do you feel? How are you feeling? How did you, like, for me, it's like, it's an exciting opportunity, obviously, and getting to work with really, like, a lot of great people, and obviously I'm really excited that I got to do it, and I'm pretty proud of what I did, but I've never been one to be like, oh, it was amazing, because it's at the moments after that you reflect, like, on the plane ride home, or, like, in your hotel room or something that I think I appreciate the most, which is usually calm and reflective, not, like, hype in a crowd.
Gotcha. Makes sense. Is there an element to this where this is just kind of another day at the office almost? Like, you cast all the time. Like, you and Rifkin are probably the hardest working casters. I mean, I don't want to single anybody out and downplay anybody else's accomplishments, but you cast all the time. How much of this is just another day at work to you?
Yeah, saying we're the hardest working casters is like, so people have been saying that, I feel, lately, and I'm just like, it's...
Among the hardest working.
Yeah, there you go. That's a better way to say it, because it's like really hard to tell. These guys that I'm working with, they're such professionals, like doing a lot of behind the scenes work and stuff. But so as far as like it being another day at work, like, no, it's definitely different. But I did adapt very quickly to like getting into the groove. So literally, like, it used to be like 30 minutes to an hour of before, during, and a little bit after the very start that I would get nervous, and then I just get into my element and be fine. It was even less this time, despite being on a bigger stage. The things that I was worried about were things that were specific to this event, like being on the desk, but it actually wasn't a problem at all, and I felt very comfortable.
Awesome. This is like, it's weird because you open the year very strong with Nation Wars, and now we're kind of closing the year, even though it's September, but this is like the last really big StarCraft event for the WCS circuit. How are you looking at this year? Like, did you set out with certain expectations and goals for 2017, and do you think that you've accomplished them?
I did. I think last year, before I went to Korea, I talked about it in a YouTube video that I did, and I think that kind of got out there that I was looking for the bigger role, the bigger jobs, and was available for them as well. I don't know if that helped Nation Wars choose me or whatever, but hey, whatever. I did Nation Wars. I thought it went really, really well, and then I had people saying, like, I did very well, and I might be hearing about something, but then it took 9 months, basically, to actually be like, hey, you're actually invited. So certainly there are moments of, like, intense jealousy, right? Like, Fear Dragon getting it, and I was like, oh! But I also just, like, it doesn't last very long, right? It shouldn't last very long. I'm very happy for Fear Dragon, happy for anyone that gets this job, and, like, I think everyone who gets it is, like, really deserving of it. So it was a long process, but I certainly managed to hit my goals, and I'm glad that I was eventually invited, and hopefully I can get more invites next year.
It feels like the space for top-tier StarCraft 2 casters becoming so crowded. There's so much talent that is just competing for these spots. I mean, I don't know that they're competing for every event, but there's just so many people at that top level. Is it difficult for you to gauge how you're doing compared to other people, and to rise above maybe the standard and get those positions?
That's actually a really difficult question. I'm not sure. Like, I feel like Blizzard and the people that work directly with talent are actually very, how to say, like, willing people, I guess. Like, they want new blood to constantly move around, so they are willing to reach out to people, but the people we do have are fantastic and have really set the bar very high. I think Fear Dragon and I actually talked about this. We did a lot of talking about the events we were going to do or did, and it just feels like, you know, 5-6 years ago, at the beginning of StarCraft, there were so many that if you didn't just completely fuck it up, then you did a okay job. But in the last 2 or 3, it's been very set with very high-tier casters, and when you're invited to be one of them, it just actually feels like you actually reached quite a level. I don't really know how to, like, see it in terms of, like, is there a possibility to break into those people because they're already pretty set? I honestly haven't thought about it very much. I think that's a little more going into the politics of things, too, as people branch out and do other events and other things. But I also, yeah, it's a hard question because I don't really think about it.
Right on. The last time we did an interview, it was August of last year, and at the time you talked about one of your big goals. It was going to live in Korea for any length of time, right? And that's another thing that you got to accomplish this year. Talk a little bit about making that happen, what that meant to you. And I mean, you went a lot this year, right?
So yeah, I went for 10 weeks basically. It was supposed to be only like 8 weeks, but GSL vs. the World got moved, so I really wanted to go to that one. It's exactly what I wanted to do. It was a decent amount of time, basically the amount of visa that American has. I don't want to do all the tourist visa stuff, so if I was going to live there on a more permanent basis, it'd be doing something that would actually get me a visa. But as far as what I can do right now, I'm really happy that I did it. I love Korea, and there's a lot of friends there. There's a lot of the community members, and everyone that's there that is in StarCraft are so helpful to people that go there that are into StarCraft. So it's actually, you specified, I guess, goals of this year compared to like my video last year or your interview with me last year, but just as like a side, I suppose, 7 years ago when I first started seeing StarCraft and learning about esports, and around 6 years ago, I said to myself, like, I really, really, really want to travel, and that was actually my #1 goal for a long time, was just to be able to go to different events. Initially, I thought I would be as a pro player, but that wasn't good enough. And then it definitely changed, but I've actually, I think, met all my goals that I thought I could realistically get, so I've got to be setting new ones.
That's fantastic to hear. You just said, traveling is a big part of what you wanted to do in life in general, kind of thing. When you travel to these different places, like right now you're in Montreal, do you do anything like quote-unquote touristy? Will you go to a local landmark or whatever and just take in the sights and live the experience?
Usually, yes. So Montreal, a little bit no. Like, not even that I was working this time, but even last year, I didn't really bother leaving and checking everything out. I don't know why. I know Montreal has culture and things to see and stuff. I don't know. I had been to Toronto so many times, and so many Canadian friends have been like X, Y, or Z Canada thing that I don't know. The people that I know from Montreal actually didn't hype up as much like that. Like when I met a Canadian, they were like, try poutine, like, try maple syrup, like this maple syrup in particular, like very, very proud. When I met anyone from Montreal, they were like, it's a cool city, we party, and I'm like, all right then I guess I'm gonna go party. But usually I like Nation Wars in Paris or Germany for Home Story Cup. I did try. In France I actually went a lot of places, but in Home Story Cup it was so hot and no one spoke English that I tried very hard and couldn't do anything, but generally I like to go and visit the city.
Whoever wasn't selling you Montreal appropriately did a disservice to the city, okay? There is some beautiful architecture. You should go check out the cathedral. It like blew my mind when I was 16, oh my god. So get it done, okay?
Okay, well, cathedral's cool, but then like Paris is like, hey, go check out like the Mona Lisa, which actually wasn't that impressive to your credit, I suppose. But still, I feel like Montreal is actually, like, a lot of people say architecture or partying. There's not too much else.
You're hurting my Canadian spirit, that's all I'm going to say. So, coming up for the 2018 season, they've said it's going to look a lot, WCS 2018 will look a lot like WCS 2017. If the number of events stays at 4, we talked a little bit about the competition of casters, but for the players too, I spoke to some players this weekend who were really dissatisfied with just the number of events that there were this year. How do you feel about the WCS 2017 setup, and do you think it'll be okay to continue on as normal in 2018 with the number of events that Circuit had?
So I think the overarching idea is still pretty good, so I don't mind it for 2018. I know for a fact they're changing some of the smaller details that people were complaining a lot about, so that's the good news. I can't say it, I don't remember, so I just won't. But yeah, so I think that, of course, we'd like more events, and we'd like the opportunity to build more storylines, be a little more region-specific even. All those things are good ideas, but as far as what 2017 was, I actually thought it was quite good. It was really easy to digest, where like 4 or 5 years ago, it was like every single tournament every weekend, and it was really hard to follow. Yeah, I'm actually pretty happy with 2017, and I think they can make improvements, and if StarCraft 2 gets bigger and bigger slowly but surely, then they can continue adding. But I actually like kind of the pace they're looking at right now, I guess.
you're a Starcraft Brood War fan. Starcraft Remastered came out just a little while ago. I know on Base Trade you've dabbled a little bit. You guys have dabbled with running SCR events. Here to this weekend at Montreal, there was a BYOC Starcraft Remastered event.
Really?
Yeah, there was. Yeah, it was like $1,000. Yep. There was some signage. Should have got that extra caster money.
Should have. God. I should have entered as a player. I think I've done pretty well.
What do you think about SCR's place in the world of esports? Like, do you think that there's enough of an RTS pie for SCR to have its own individual slice?
No. I think that's actually a general consensus among a lot of people is like, if another RTS could beat StarCraft, then it would have to be a Blizzard RTS, which is like, there's only one other. Then StarCraft 2 would it wouldn't die because it would be different and it would be, but it'd be small. It'd be really small. I think that StarCraft Remastered is exactly, it's gonna help the Korean scene, which always preferred Brood War, and then it's not gonna do anything. I said, like, people were saying that 6 months ago when they first heard it, 2 months ago when the hype was really increasing, and a week ago when the hype was basically falling down. It's like, I think it's been actually a very steady expectation, and I stick with it. Like, I don't think it's gonna push StarCraft 2 aside for foreigners.
Yeah.
And I love the game, but I do think it's just gonna be like, it's gonna help Korea, and that's fine.
So that's a solid no to everyone on the forums asking for SCR WCUS?
I think so. Like, I don't know who's been asking that, but if there was a chance that StarCraft Remastered took off for foreigners, they wouldn't want to cannibalize the StarCraft scene either, so I think they'd avoid that.
Right. What about on the more zoned-in scale of just Base Trade TV? I know that unfortunately you guys got a little flack, oddly enough, for the Brood War tournament that you ran, but is there...
So yeah, actually for that, I was having a discussion with some other people about this, and I love Brood War. I think a lot of people that have loved it for a long time and would be called elitist are actually really good people that just love their game, but I also think that generally the vocal minority is so much shittier for Brood War, and I don't even think you actually argue that, compared to not just our thread, which, okay, Base TV could, their own thread every time in StarCraft 2 too. No, like other people, man. It's actually kind of a well-known fact, and it's pushed quite a lot of people away. So I don't know. I just I felt like I almost needed to say that because I feel like sometimes I'm like, yeah, I like Brood War. Like, yeah, I know a little bit about Brood War, and everyone, I guess, thinks like I'm pushing towards Brood War and how it's a superior game when I'm really not. And it's a superior community too, and I'm like, I'm really not. I love it. It's great. Some people are really cool.
Right.
But overall, I try not to pay too much attention to the reactions. I just worry if I enjoyed it.
So, where I was headed, I was going to ask, is there a niche world where you guys run maybe a SCR tournament once every 4 months or something like that? But it kind of seems like that's probably a no, right?
The community reaction definitely didn't help any motive we would have to do it. But as I said, if I enjoy it and Rifkin's fine with it and our viewers want it, because that's the thing, is we kept on saying, if you guys want it, then just tell us and show us, and they did, so we're probably going to do another one. But it really does come down to, and it's always come down to, do we enjoy the game, and do we enjoy casting the game, which definitely means interacting with the community, That's a part we might not mention, but is a part of casting the game, and it's a little, I don't know if I do, right? It's really weird. So I wouldn't think of too many plans coming from us.
I know that you're the big man at Base Trade TV, Riff_Ken. He's been playing a lot of PUBG. And there's been rumblings and discussions once or twice, if I remember correctly, about bringing PUBG into the Base Trade TV world. It's called PUBG. Deal with it. You just said, it's really important for you guys to be working with scenes and with games that you enjoy and that you like. On your side of the spectrum, is PlayerUnknown's Battlegrounds a game that you enjoy? Have you played much of it? Would you be willing to cast it?
So Rifkin's been very clear, so this isn't telling any secret or anything. He does want to cast PUBG, and he really does like it. And he was looking into doing tournaments, but there was a server issue, I guess, that happened that I don't know about. So that's been kind of pushed to the side, and we are still so busy with StarCraft, it's actually sometimes really hard to even try and do something like that. But personally for me, and we've had this discussion, like, I don't really play it. I have played it, and when I want to play an FPS, I load it up and play like 3 times. But that's really it. I don't know if I really want to. I don't know if I really want to learn it. You know, if I'm going to go another game, it's going to be RTS. Is kind of what I figured out. We tried Overwatch, and while I think PUBG would be a better scene for community guys like us than Overwatch was, because that was a clusterfuck. I still don't really find the tempo of FPSs or MOBAs or something fun. I actually thought a lot about that recently, just as more and more people are maybe moving to different games. Not moving, but sharing different games is a good idea. And I looked at it and I was like, Overwatch was fun. It was challenging to learn a new game, and that's a fun thing. But when I think about the pace of the cast, I greatly prefer RTSs. I like fighting games. I like listening to fighting games. I wouldn't want to cast with that very specific dynamic that's there. RTS for me is the perfect calm point, hype point, analysis point, just cool point. So I'm kind of restricting myself by saying that, because maybe I do get really into PUBG, and I certainly I saw the tournament, and I actually really enjoyed the casters, and I thought it was fun when it got to the hype moments. But for now, I'm kind of feeling like it's RTS or die for me, I guess.
I'm actually really disappointed to hear you say that you don't think about fighting games as a potential at all, because I think that the base trade brand of casting works so well. I think that something that makes you guys special is that you have that, not laid back, but it's like a non-traditional to RTS, but more fighting game feel to your casts.
So I actually totally see that point. I feel like if we had ever been able to actually do a house or a studio or something like that, which we've talked about, but it's just really difficult to do when we're both from different countries, that we could have done powwows, playing random video games and still been entertaining. We could have done mini shows, still been entertaining about anything X, Y, or Z. I do believe that, but when it does come down to the core of it, for me at least, it's yeah, we could do our usual base trade TV thing. There's a fighting game in the background. We could do our base trade TV thing and chit chat and be casual, and I realize that's a very strong part of the fighting game community, and that's why I like it. But that's still not what I hear in the cast. It's one guy, and usually guys, one guy will just be yeah, he's gonna go into the blank move, into the blank move, and the blank move, and then is interjected immediately by the other guy who's oh, it's so quick.
Yeah.
And if you are the analysis, you are just expected to be cut off all the time. This is a very outsider's perspective on casting, by the way. I know people are going to be no, actually, analysis is super important, but that's the a tempo I get from it, because that's actually what kind of opened Overwatch. If you're going to be an analysis, if you're going to actually try and talk about the game, if you spend that time making a joke, there is no analysis. The fights are happening, and you just got, go to the desk after. Oh wait, there's no desk. Go to ads. So yeah, I understand the community feel, and that I really appreciate it. So talking casually about it, I could totally do that, but I don't know about casting.
You said earlier that you've kind of reached a point where you met your goals for the year, and you met your really big goals for kind of in general. You're going to have to find some new ones. What do you think you're going to set your eyes on for 2018?
Yeah.
What might be coming?
Yeah, it's actually a really important moment for me, I suppose. I'm actually a little bit in turmoil about this too, so it's kind of a more personal question than you intend, I suppose. I've talked to a lot of people who have different opinions from very different fields. Obviously, I've thought a lot about myself. I've talked to my family even. It's just what would be my goals? What am I willing to do to branch out? How long do I see this going on and stuff like that? I've been pretty open about talking about my goals and a 5 or 10 year step program. You can even find it in an AMA I did years ago. And I still think I don't know, super long term, I love talking about the game, StarCraft, and RTS, I guess, in general. So obviously going into something that is esports related, but out of business sounds like the best idea. But even being a talent manager sounds like a good plan, because I like working with esports in general, or a team manager or something like that. Would be still pretty good for me. But that's down the road. It's like immediately in the next 1 or 2 or 3 or basically 5 years is kind of like what I'm thinking.
Right.
To continue casting. I really don't know. Yeah, I want to continue doing like these big things, and I want to be doing more streaming as well because I'm getting better at it basically and enjoying it more because I'm getting better at it. But actually like a finite, like achievable number goal, I guess, right? Like something that's actually tangible. I'm still kind of working on that one myself. So,
gotcha.
Yeah.
Well, listen, I want to personally thank you on record because without you, I wouldn't be here, and that means more than I could possibly ever express, so thank you so much. Thank you so much for your time. I thought you did a great job this weekend, and I can't wait to see what comes next.
Thanks, man.